At approximately noon on September 16th, 2010, a Chicago lawyer named William Pintus is lying on a pool deck in Las Vegas. He's not on the street. He is not in the desert. He's inside a luxury hotel pool compound. Shaded loungers around him. Cocktail service at his elbow. A plastic bag with his newspaper sitting beside his chair. Then his scalp begins to burn. Not sunburn. Not the slow creep of a long afternoon in the Nevada sun that every Vegas visitor knows. Something different. Something focused. Something that in under 30 seconds has moved from uncomfortable to unbearable. A heat so concentrated and directional that it feels, in his own words, like a chemical burn on the top of his head. He stands up. He moves. The burning moves with him. He runs. He reaches the bar. He looks back at his lounger. The plastic Vdara branded bag that had been holding his newspaper is no longer a bag. The black letters spelling out the hotel's name have melted away. The plastic itself has partially fused. He calls hotel staff. He says, "I don't know if you know what's going on out here, but I was being burned." The staff member looks at him and says, "Yeah, we know. We call it the death ray." The hotel that burned him is the Vdara Hotel and Spa, 578 feet tall, 57 stories, 1,495 suites. A crescent-shaped curved glass tower on the Las Vegas Strip. Part of the most expensive privately financed construction project in United States history. And the architect who designed it knew. Before the building opened, before a single guest checked in, before William Pintus's plastic bag melted on a Tuesday in September, that the curved glass would focus the sun into a concentrated beam of heat onto the pool deck below. He knew. And the building opened anyway. That is the beginning. This is the rest of the story. Here is what the Vdara's hotel brochure does not explain. When William Pintus told a hotel employee he had been burned, the employee's response was not surprise. It was not alarm. It was not the reaction of someone hearing about a problem for the first time. It was the shrug of someone who had been telling guests about this thing for months. MGM Resorts International, the owner of the Vdara, had a name for it too. Not the death ray. Their name was solar convergence phenomenon. The same physical event, a different press strategy. And here's what that strategy does not explain. The designers knew about the solar convergence phenomenon before the building opened. They identified it during the design phase. They tried to solve it with a high-tech anti-reflective film applied to the south-facing glass panels before the first guest arrived. The film scattered 70% of the reflected rays. The building opened in December 2009. By September 2010, the film was still in place. It was scattering 70% of the reflected solar energy. And a lawyer's hair was burning in under 30 seconds on the remaining 30%. This is the story of how the architect of a $600 million luxury tower built the most expensive magnifying glass in Las Vegas history, told the people who paid for it that the glass would focus the sun before it was built, and then watched the building open, burn its guests, and go on to do the exact same thing 3 years later in a different country, on a different continent, in a different city. Start in 2001, Las Vegas, the south end of the Strip. MGM Mirage, one of the 2 or 3 most powerful casino companies in the world at that moment, makes a decision that reshapes the entire Las Vegas skyline conversation. They're going to build a city within a city, not a hotel, not a resort, not a casino with a few towers attached, a 67-acre urban complex on the Strip between Bellagio and Monte Carlo, 6 towers, a retail district, multiple restaurants from Michelin-starred chefs, a performing arts venue, city center. The budget is $8, $5 billion. At the time of its announcement, it is the most expensive privately financed construction project ever undertaken in the United States. To fill 6 towers on 67 acres with architecture that matches the ambition of the investment, MGM Mirage does something Las Vegas has never done. They hire the most celebrated architects in the world. Norman Foster, designer of the Reichstag Dome in Berlin, 30 St. Mary Axe in London, Apple Park, takes the Harmon Hotel. Daniel Libeskind, designer of the Jewish Museum in Berlin, the Ground Zero Master Plan, takes the Crystals Retail Pavilion. And for the Vdara Hotel and Spa, the all-suite residential-style luxury tower on the northwest corner of the complex, MGM hires Raphael Vignoli. Raphael Vignoli is one of the most internationally recognized architects alive. Born in Uruguay, trained in Buenos Aires, practiced from New York. His firm has completed buildings on 6 continents. His portfolio includes concert halls, academic buildings, and urban towers across Europe, Asia, and the Americas. He is, by any measure, a sophisticated architectural intelligence with a global practice and a deep understanding of how buildings behave in the environments they are built in. For the Vdara, Vignoli designs a 57-story crescent-shaped glass tower, 578 feet at the pinnacle. The curved plan is elegant. 3 vertical volumes offset from each other like the pages of a book not quite aligned on a shelf. The facade is sheathed in 3,000 double-pane glass panels, acid-etched, energy-efficient, with 44% exterior, visible light reflectance, and 46% solar energy reflectance. The curve faces south. Las Vegas faces south into a Mojave desert sky that delivers 336 hours of direct sunlight per month. In September, ambient temperatures on the Strip reach 113 degrees Fahrenheit. The curved, concave south face of the Vdara Tower faces all of it. Here's what the opening ceremony in December 2009 does not explain. A concave curved surface facing a direct light source does not scatter that light. It collects it, it organizes it, it focuses it. This is not a modern discovery. It is not a phenomenon that required advanced computational simulation to predict. Archimedes, the Greek mathematician who lived in the 3rd century BC, reportedly used curved bronze mirrors to focus sunlight into a concentrated beam during the siege of Syracuse. Whether or not that specific story is true, the optical physics behind it has been understood for over 2,000 years. A concave mirror focuses parallel incoming rays toward a single focal point. The geometry is determined by the curvature of the surface. The more tightly curved the surface, the closer the focal point to the reflector. The more gently curved, the further the focal point extends outward. For a 578-foot crescent-shaped glass tower, whose concave south face spans hundreds of feet of reflective glazing, the focal geometry produces something specific. A concentrated zone of reflected solar energy at ground level, at the base of the tower, on the pool deck, 10 feet wide, 15 feet long, moving slowly across the deck over 90 minutes as the sun tracks across the sky, adding 20 degrees Fahrenheit above whatever the ambient air temperature already is. In September in Las Vegas, where ambient temperatures reach 113 degrees Fahrenheit, the hot zone reaches 133 degrees or higher. That temperature melts plastic. It sings hair in under 30 seconds. It is, in the thermal sense, a weapon. And it is a weapon that the architect identified during the design phase. Stop here. Because what Raphael Vignoli knew, and when he knew it, and what he said about it afterward, is the part that changes how you look at every curved glass building you have ever stood beneath. Here is what parabolic reflection actually does at architectural scale. A flat glass surface reflects light the way a flat mirror does. The angle of incidence equals the angle of reflection. A beam hitting the surface at 30 degrees bounces away at 30 degrees. The energy disperses. It spreads. At a distance from a flat glass building, the reflected light is diluted. Annoying on a bright day, but not concentrated. A curved glass surface operates differently. When parallel rays from a distant source, the sun, which is so far away that its rays arrive essentially parallel, hit a concave curved surface, the geometry of each reflection sends the ray toward the same point. One ray hits the left edge of the curve. Its reflection angles inward. Another ray hits the right edge. Its reflection angles inward from the other direction. A ray hits the center. It reflects straight back toward the focal zone. Every ray from across the entire concave surface converges at the focal point. The total solar energy intercepted by hundreds of feet of curved glass facade, energy that would otherwise spread across a wide area, is concentrated into a 10 by 15 foot rectangle. That concentration is not additive. It is multiplicative. Think about what you did as a child with a magnifying glass on a sunny afternoon. You focused the glass until the scattered sunlight of an entire lens converged onto a single spot on a piece of paper. The spot heated. The paper browned. Then it burned. The Vdara Hotel is a magnifying glass, 578 feet tall, aimed at its own pool deck. Vignoli later acknowledged to The Guardian that he had identified the solar convergence issue during the design process. He said he did not have the appropriate tools or software to analyze the precise thermal effect at that stage. He said he estimated the temperature of the focused zone would be approximately 97 degrees Fahrenheit. He was wrong by a factor that burned a lawyer's scalp in 30 seconds. But here is what he said about the Vdara specifically. Not London, not the walkie-talkie building, but the Las Vegas hotel he had already built and already burned guests with. When asked by The Guardian in 2013 whether he had flagged the Vdara's solar convergence problem to MGM before the building opened, he said, "We pointed out that it would be an issue too." And then he said, "But who cares if you fry somebody in Las Vegas, right?" That is not a misquote. It is not taken out of context. It is the architect's own description of the institutional response he received when he raised the concern. The concern was raised. The building was built anyway. The anti-reflective film was applied. It scattered 70% of the rays. The building opened. The guests were burned by the remaining 30%. In September 2010, 9 months after the Vdara opens, William Pintas calls the Las Vegas Review-Journal. He tells them what happened to him on the pool deck. He describes the melted plastic bag. He describes the singed hair. He describes the hotel employee who confirmed the death ray's existence with the casual certainty of someone reporting a weather condition. The story breaks nationally within 48 hours. ABC News covers it. NBC's Today Show covers it. CNN covers it. Every major American newspaper runs the phrase death ray in a headline about a luxury Las Vegas hotel. MGM Resorts responds immediately. Spokesman Gordon Absher tells reporters that he prefers the term hotspot, or solar convergence, not death ray. Absher explains the 90-minute window during which the concentrated zone moves across the pool deck. He explains that hotel staff are trained to move guests when the zone approaches their position. He explains that the anti-reflective film is in place and reducing the effect by 70%. He does not explain why 70% was considered sufficient mitigation for a thermal effect that burns scalps in 30 seconds. He does not explain why the pool remained open to guests during the 90-minute window when staff knew the zone was active. He does not explain why the first public knowledge of the death ray came from a guest who called a newspaper, rather than from a hazard disclosure that any paying pool customer might reasonably expect. MGM installs turquoise umbrellas over the affected area of the pool deck. Additional foliage is considered. Shade structures are discussed. The pool remains open. The film remains on the glass. The umbrellas appear. And the zone continues to move across the deck every clear day between roughly 11:30 a.m. and 1 p.m. every September through the summer months in a city that averages 336 hours of direct sunlight per month. Here is what the turquoise umbrellas do not explain. Raphael Vignoli does not stop designing curved glass buildings after the Vdara. In 2013, 3 years after William Pintus's scalp burned on a September afternoon in Las Vegas, Vignoli's firm completes 20 Fenchurch Street in London. The building is 37 stories tall. Its shape is immediately distinctive. It widens dramatically toward the top, a form that earns it the nickname the walkie-talkie almost immediately after construction photographs appear in the press. Its south-facing facade curves concavely. In the summer of 2013, sunlight reflected from the curved glass facade of 20 Fenchurch Street focuses onto the street below at a temperature that reaches 230 degrees Fahrenheit. Not 113, not 133, 230 degrees Fahrenheit. Beyond the boiling point of water, far above the highest ambient air temperature ever recorded anywhere on Earth. A Jaguar parked on East Cheap Street has its bodywork panels warped. Its mirror housing melts. A hair salon across the street has its carpet scorched through the window. Reporters bring baguettes and frying pans to the hot zone. The baguettes toast, the eggs cook. The street becomes the most popular tourist attraction in London for a week. The building earns a second nickname, the Skyscraper. When Vignoli speaks to The Guardian about the London building, he says, "We made a lot of mistakes with this building, and we will take care of it." He explains that the original design included horizontal sun louvers on the south-facing facade, precisely the architectural element that would have prevented the solar convergence. The louvers were removed during the value engineering process to cut costs, the same architect, the same optical physics, the same parabolic geometry, the same focal zone at street level. 3 years later, different city, different continent, same result. And this time, the temperature was not 133 degrees, it was 230, beyond the boiling point of water, on a public street in London in September, in a city whose average September temperature is 59 degrees Fahrenheit. Vignoli died in March 2023 at age 78. The London building has since been fitted with a permanent sunshade on its south-facing concave facade. The Vdara still stands at the northwest corner of City Centre. The turquoise umbrellas are still there. The film is still on the glass. The death ray is still there. It is seasonal. It moves. And if you sit outside the umbrella zone at noon in September, it will find you. Both things are true about the Vdara Hotel. By any architectural measure, it is one of the most sophisticated luxury properties on the Las Vegas Strip. 495 all-suite rooms. Spa facilities, a 40,000 square foot pool compound, a smoke-free, casino-free environment in a city where those two qualities are rarities. Part of City Centre, the $8. $5 billion urban complex that brought Norman Foster and Daniel Libeskind and Raphael Vignoli to a strip whose previous architectural vocabulary had been built around themed casinos and neon. The building is 578 feet tall. Its curved crescent silhouette is immediately recognizable from anywhere on that section of the strip. A TripAdvisor rating of 4 hours. 5 out of 5 as recently as 2024, described by reviewers as relaxing, lovely, and sophisticated. A property that earns its price point on the merits of its suites, its spa, and its location within walking distance of every major attraction in the city center complex. And it is also a 578-foot curved glass tower, whose south-facing concave facade focuses the desert sun into a 10 by 15-foot thermal zone on its own pool deck. A zone that reaches 133 degrees Fahrenheit or higher on a September afternoon. That burns scalps in under 30 seconds. That melted the plastic off a hotel-branded bag with enough force that the lettering disappeared, that the hotel's own staff knew about, called the death ray, and managed by moving guests around the deck. A building whose architect identified the solar convergence problem during the design phase and raised the concern before the building was constructed. A building that opened anyway. with a film that scattered 70% of the rays, and a 30% remainder that burned a lawyer's head on a Tuesday in September 2010. A building whose architect, 3 years later, built the same optical mistake on a public street in London and produced temperatures of 230 degrees Fahrenheit, high enough to cook eggs and melt a jaguar, before telling a reporter, "We made a lot of mistakes with this building." A building whose architect said of the Las Vegas version, the version that burned the guests, the version where he had been told and had raised the concern and watched the building go up with the film on the glass. Who cares if you fry somebody in Las Vegas, right? The turquoise umbrellas are still over the affected zone. The death ray still moves across the deck every clear day near noon. The hotel is still open. The guests are still booking suites at a 4. 5-star rating on TripAdvisor. And if you walk through the pool gate between 11:30 and 1 on a sunny September afternoon and sit outside the umbrella line, the building will find you. Not the sun, the building. There is a difference. The sun is everywhere. The building is aimed